And other people are convinced too.
Lord Lawson Primary School in 2007 will have a brand new school, and there is some discussion about whether it should be hardwired or whether it should be a wireless network. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind after today's visit that it should be a wireless network.
It's really a key question of what will enhance the learning process, what will motivate students. And most of the research is telling us that learners and teachers are motivated using new technology. I think the danger would be that teachers would turn and say, oh, well, we could do that if we had all those resources. But I think that would be missing the point. I think there are resources in most schools now that teachers can use, that can take the first step along the transformation journey. It doesn't have to be a whole school implementation, it doesn't have to be a big VLE. It can be, just the simple use of simple technology.
I think what's been particularly interesting is the way in which you can see that children are genuinely enthused about learning through using the medium of ICT, and I feel that that is definitely the way to go.
The tour bus moves on from the shiny wonders of Genogally to Heybridge High School in Worcestershire, where they see the investment this school has put into design and technology, but without neglecting more traditional skills. One teacher explains how he blends old and new skills.
Yes, it has. 4 or 5 years ago, we had very little new technology in this department. I think the way to look at it now is that new technology drives almost everything that we're doing, but we've tried to enhance and to keep the things that we think are important. We're not just using computers for the sake of it. If a manual technique is the best way of doing it, we still do it manually.
Our graduate designers, we find that they're very, very good at AutoCAD applications, but then when they come to the practical making of the product, like you've done with the dinosaur at the back, they have a great deal of hardship to achieve that bridge.
I think that computers make you be creative in a different way, and they do sometimes stifle the raw thinking design process. So it's a combination of traditional manual drawing techniques with computers where they're...
But they've got to then produce a very practical thing that they can touch and feel at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right. And what computers allow us to do is to rapid prototyping in inverted commas, so that you can do that, and you can do it in a quick way.
When Robin Hood Primary School in inner-city Birmingham opened in 1989, its intake was predominantly children who'd been asked to leave other schools. The power of ICT to motivate pupils was obvious to staff even back then.
The thing that we noticed very quickly was how the children tended to gravitate towards the computer in the classroom. It was the computer was the thing that made them sit still, show some interest, because most of these children had failed in their previous attempts at education.
We had just one computer for the whole school. We had mixed age classes. I had the whole of the junior school in one class. And the only thing that was easy to get the children to do was to work on the computer.
I think the thing that took us by surprise really was the way the children were captivated by the art packages. We had no expertise in art in the school. Anne herself, who was a class teacher at the time, decided to follow that up for herself and became skilled alongside the pupils. She actually learned alongside the pupils, which had lots of other spin-offs for us.
Because ICT was developing so rapidly, we as teachers couldn't learn all that we needed to learn overnight and then be ready to teach children the next day or even the next month. So what we did was to actually sit down and investigate with the children. That was a fundamental change in relationships. Children, for the first time, saw their teachers modelling learning, genuinely modelling learning, finding that we made mistakes and that sometimes the children could correct us and show us the way. For these particular children, that made them feel 10 feet tall.
Having set new patterns for how teachers and pupils could work together to learn ICT, the school then decided to draw on the pupils' expertise and began training them to tutor one another.
This proved to be a marvellous improvement for us. It began to turn around a lot of children who had behaviour problems. This was not our intention to start with, this was a byproduct, but it meant that children who were used to putting one another down now had learnt the language of praise and encouragement. and were very, very good at explaining step by step how to do things.
Just don't like the bit when they move in and move out. I'm not sure about that bit. Should we delete this one and do it again? It's up to you. Because I'm moving it in and out. Your choice? Yeah, should we do another one, Iris? Yeah, I'll say.
About 5 or 6 years ago, children noticed that the internet particularly had moved from still pictures and text to small animations and moving image. And really they wanted to know how that was done. We began to realise that youngsters of today, the world that they live in now, and certainly the world that they're going to move into, they need to be visually literate. Traditional literacy, numeracy are very important, but they're bombarded all the time by adverts. They're in the world of cartoons, film, moving image. We feel it was very important that children actually know how to physically put those sorts of things together, so we teach them animation, basic filmmaking in the work that we do in school.
Do you like that one? Yeah. So if we take it off, so we drag it upwards. Okay, what else would you like? How about piano? Now would you like you want to cheerful piano, don't you? So if you click on cheerful as well. So try something. Try the delicate pianos. See how that sounds.
The school's even got its own purpose-built cinema, ideal for screening their work to visitors.
Oh no! Someone's been messing with my bag. It has a cinema here. Oh, cinema. But what's this? Must be a birthday present. Happy birthday, Hannah.
I'm turning them around. Shoot. Action.
Pupils can work on animation, filmmaking, web authoring and digital photography. A recent HMI report said Year 6 pupils at Robin Hood had ICT skills 4 to 5 years beyond their chronological age.
Because the children feel successful, because the computers motivate them, because their confidence has grown, then they transfer that to other areas of the curriculum. So their literacy skills, we believe, are better than they would have been, numeracy skills and so on.
We've now got many of our children who are talking about the film industry, talking about getting into animation, talking about being designers. That wasn't the situation when we first opened the school. They would have been more likely to want to work at the local Tesco. So we definitely feel that we have lifted their horizons and certainly given them a much higher aspiration.
Rolling, 3, 2, 1, action. And can you tell us what's your future vision of the school?
I think this school is one of the most impressive I've ever seen, which is pointing the way the schools are in the future.
I think it's transformed the life chances of our children. We've got ordinary children doing extraordinary things.
What really occurred to me on sort of leaving the school was that they're going to be going to secondary school, and probably a variety of secondary schools, where it's really important actually that continuity is there, and that they're given the same opportunities as soon as they step through the door at Year 7, because it'll be massively demotivating if all of a sudden they're in an environment where they don't have that opportunity to use that equipment and to continue the learning that they've done.
Some children can be disappointed because they find they're doing projects or they're learning skills that they did not even in Year 6. They probably did them maybe even in Year 3.
The tour pays a flying visit to Cross Hill School in Blackburn, a special school making impressive use of ICT. Head Mike Hatch has used technology, particularly in media and music, to help enhance his pupils' self-esteem and motivation, as well as raising their achievement to the point where 2 of their pupils gained Grade C GCSE this year.
This is where they do the filming, and in here is the sound. We've been commissioned on a few occasions to do DVDs for social services, especially Schools Trust, and they've paid us for our students and staff to go out and actually make DVDs for their marketing.
Windcliffe Primary School in Birmingham, where most pupils have English as an additional language, demonstrates how ICT can be used to encourage communication skills and active learning.
Good morning to all you listeners out there. This is Redcliffe Radio. What an action-packed show we have for you today, so stay tuned. We have funky music, hot gossip, the latest news and views from in and around the community. Stay tuned for the exclusive competition where you could win top prizes. But first, let's get into the groove with Usher and You.
But Head Anita D highlights to the visitors the very real digital divide facing her pupils.
It's important for us in our community to address the haves and the have-nots. Most of our children don't have access to computers. We did a survey some time ago to find out exactly how many did. And when we explored the few hands that went up, they were actually PlayStations and things like that. They weren't computers. There are one or two families now that do have more computers at home, but even so we're finding that it's usually dads are reluctant to let the children have a go. So to that end we've had all sorts of little projects going on with homeschool links where laptops have gone home to support projects.
The struggle to square the circle of anytime, anywhere learning and large numbers of learners with no access to technology outside school hours was high on many people's agendas.
In the last Ofsted report, 5 years on ICT in education, the inspectorate were identifying that, the gap's getting wider between those that are really effective, really making the best use of technology, and those that really haven't yet started their journey.
Some of our pupils have actually been given access to the network system as a whole, so that their computer at home replicates the machine in school. But that's only a few people. We can only afford 30 licences for that. I mean, the costs are quite extensive.
As an academy, we're in a relatively deprived catchment, which makes it difficult for our students to get access at home. Our kind of next key developments are looking at how we can break down this digital divide and how we can make our community access the ICT better and look at getting ICT into the home so that students can continue to work at home in the same way as they work at school.
I think certainly from DFES's point of view, this is something that we're also trying to address in terms of working much wider with other government departments in terms of so-called social deprivation and other policies to make sure that there is access. And it doesn't necessarily have to be at the home, but there is access be in the community or be actually within the school, which opens up itself to the community.
I think it's an attitude thing. Yes, of course, you can go around some of the schools you've seen and be green with envy about obviously the heavy financial investment that's gone in to give them the sort of equipment that they have. On the other hand, it is still about the dynamism of the teachers and the way in which they enthuse youngsters. And you can move into ICT in quite small ways with quite inexpensive pieces of software.
The overall vision then is that ICT can help put the learner in control, but with schools as only one of many places where they can learn.
I think the idea that education is about school between 9 to 4 is an idea that's already come and gone. Anyone who's now thinking about education is thinking outside the school walls.
The technology will challenge our whole concept of what a school is and what it does and how it does it.
I think very much that technology will allow to learn at the individual's pace. And I think we will see changes in terms of the typical school day.
We may well see a situation where certain year groups at certain times don't need to go to school, and so they don't. But I still think ultimately that a class of well-motivated young people who are enjoying the interaction with each other and are enjoying an interaction with a sparky teacher will never be superseded.